Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, men and women of God, Bwana asifiwe sana. Amen. I want to go ahead. I want to invite the speaker of the day. Today we have a guest speaker. And the speaker that I'm about to invite to us this morning to speak to God's people. He is a men's mental health champion. He's a youth and adolescent. He deals with youth and adolescent issues, marital and family counselor as well. And he's a speaker. And today I met him for the very first time today. But he's a person that is well known. Probably you might have interacted with him through maybe his staff teachings. And so today will be another opportunity for us to be blessed with him. And so we invited Mr. Dennis Ogaro Ondieki, because those are his names. Because many a times when we are dealing with our children, like when we have a teens camp, they are empowered, they are trained, and they come out of the camp with a lot of knowledge, a lot of information. But now the question has always been, what about the parents? When the teens are being empowered, when the children are being empowered, it's also very fair for the parents also to be empowered, so that empowerment is not one-sided, but empowerment is balanced. And today, as the Spirit guides him, he'll be talking to us parents, and I believe it will also cut across to our children, the youth, and each and every person that is here. So be ready for God to speak to you and God to bless you. Open your heart and allow the man of God, as he comes over, that God will use him as a vessel to be able to help us in one area or another. So for the next 1 hour, God will use him as a vessel to bless us. Can we put our hands together as the man of God comes over? Amen. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Pastor Bernard. And Pastor Mwangi, thank you very much. And I'm here courtesy of the invitation of Martha. I have to acknowledge her. And I have encountered her. And as a result of that encounter, she felt that the people of God in this church needed also to encounter the words around issues to do with the family. So I'm blessed this morning to be with you. And even as I stand here, I want to invite each and every one of us into this place and presence that the Lord has been able to bring us to think about issues to do with family. Part of this is going to be my life, because I believe by virtue that we are gospel carriers. As individuals, we are gospel carriers. Amen? And like you heard, my name is Dennis Ogaro Ondieki. There is something that, and I don't know, the Spirit was speaking, Pastor, because you spoke about the name. That is my name. Initially, I was born and given a different name because of the history. And that name, I've never used it for a long time, because when you are given a new name, it anchors you. It anchors you and gives you a foundation within where you are. And so even as I speak about family, the life testimony I'm going to give, and I want to appreciate this church and this altar has provided me with the opportunity to be able to testify with my life, and I invite you also to testify with your life the journey you've taken. I am simply 45 years old. 45, they say life begins at 40, so I'm about 5 years old, if that saying was true. I was born in Kisii to a family, a Mr. Ondieki and Madam Kemunto. Madam Kemunto was the first wife of Mr. Ondieki. My dad was a strong man. He had 3 wives only. And as the last born of the first family, I had many people to look up to But that did not work out well because I didn't begin life in the home where I was born. And I'm inviting you to see that in our midst and as families, we carry a history that sometimes affects us. It affects us as we worship. It affects our relationship with each other and our relationship with God. So, I came in to meet my father when I was about 7 years old. That means I was born away from home. The reason was that my mom had to go away because of the life that she was having at home. And so for about 7 years, the only person I knew was my mother and my sister, the one I used to follow. And so when I came home, I met this man. And then I'm imagining, wow, he's a big man. And so I get to know him. He's my father. But that situation puts me now, fast forward, I am a parent. And recounting with that, I do remember very vividly what I went through as a child. What am I saying? As a parent, as you seated here, each day, by your own actions, by your own inactions, you are mentoring your child. Amen? By what you are doing or what you are not doing, you are mentoring a child. So, having been brought up by my mother and my little sister, I was actually sleeping with my mother. Around 7 years, I didn't know. You know that people who have grown around that age, now that we have generations, I didn't even wear a short up to the time I was about 7 years. So, then the dad comes, the very first night he comes, and he finds me sleeping with my mother. Because I'm a child. And the first way he greeted me was with a slap. Pop, why are you sleeping with your mother? And I said, wow, but I'm sleeping. Why are you sleeping with your mother? And then I'm wondering, what is wrong with sleeping with my mother? That's how I was mentored into this man called my dad. May God rest his soul in peace. He died in around 2016. Now, so, as a parent who is here, as a child who is seated in this church, I want you to look back as an adult. As an adult, what was the first meeting you had with your dad as an adult? As you're seated here, how was it? That was mine. And that kept on haunting me throughout until I came into counseling. And that is how I was able to encounter myself. All that life, I was struggling with that. Why are you sleeping with your mother? Now, sleep, as you are aware, has been transformed to mean many things, okay? If you are married and you are sleeping with your wife, that has a different meaning, isn't it? If you are a child and you are sleeping with your mother, that's a different thing. Associated with that was that, therefore, my dad at that time had acknowledged the fact that he wasn't doing anything with the first family. He was dealing with the children of the other family. So I was raised up by my brother. And my brother is the one who oriented me into life. His name is Ronald. And purposely, why I share this story is to say that many of us, as you look at the pastor seated here, their history might not be as great as they are looking now. Their past and history might be different. Now, I stand here as a person who has been able to follow through that path and recover myself to the extent that now I accept my history. Fast forward, So after that, I studied. My brother took me to school, a boarding school, and I did well. I went to secondary school. Of course, he was, if I was having had a difficulty understanding my father, then even himself, he had had the same, only that he had experienced to process it. So, eventually I came to Nairobi, and I went to the University of Nairobi, and I finished, and I met a girl I want to marry. And I went home and told my dad, I've found a girl I want to marry. And he told me, is he our tribe? No. Obviously, having been exposed to Nairobi, I had met a few Wambois in terms of our encounter, and I chose one. She was a girl from Kambani. And so he told me I can't. Simply, I cannot go. So, and that's how the story ended. He didn't go completely, so I had to seek other means to go. Because out of finding myself, I had resolved that within the scope, I had the interest of allowing my parents to understand my plan. But then with the guidance of the spiritual director, I was prompted to the fact that eventually who you stay with and who you grow up with has to be your own making and your own understanding with God. So I went home, told them, I'm getting married on a specific day, and I would love you to be there. Of course, betrothal requires that your family comes to the other family and you create a bridge. So I took an uncle, and that stuff was done. And so eventually, we got the date. So I went home, and the banns were done at home. No one had an issue, so we came. And they said, I'm not coming for the wedding, my dad. And I told him, okay, but I'm getting married. I was a happy boy. I've gotten a girl. I want to get married. So when he refused, I came and shared with my spiritual director that experience, and he told me, well, it is good you have informed him. Let's see whether he will come forth and have any objection to that. Actually, he didn't. And he said, you can go ahead and marry, but I'm not coming. And of course, if he's not coming, then my mother is not coming. So I said, fine. Let me go ahead. As long as you've told me to go ahead, I will go ahead. Anyway, eventually he came. He came. Out of my stubbornness, he came and blessed me. And that's the wife I have up to now. You know, when I told him I have the girlfriend, he asked me, is this your first girlfriend? And I told him yes. And he asked me, how can you marry the first lady that you meet? Are you crazy? I said, no, I'm in love. And so you see, the communication that he was giving me kept confusing me. And parents who are seated here, every day you speak, the very first thing you do, you bless. Or, if you don't bless, what do? You curse, isn't it? And out of it, that confusion that was leading, from a psychological perspective, communication becomes the key into unsettling a person from psychological wellness to psychological disturbance. When, as a family, as a spouse, you communicate to your wife without clarity, you are creating disturbance for that person. So, with that story, now I'm married. I have 4 children. To that very wife, 1, she wasn't able to come here. We minister at the church where we are as leaders in the choir, and she has to be present. I wanted her to come so that she can hear this testimony, that she's perhaps the best thing that happened to me, even as I stand here. And that's a testimony I'm giving. And that takes me, therefore, into the story of parenting. We know from the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 6. We are actually invited by God to be co-creators with him in that verse. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now, out of that situation, and I will make reference to my story so that we see as parents, this reflects. My father had 3 wives, but got married in the church to the second wife. Does that ring a bell? Does that ring a bell? That by the time he was getting married, there was a wife who was not present at that marriage. That's what it means. It means. And from what I know, that was the last time he stepped in church. After the marriage. So, I can easily say, as I stand here, that my path, my spiritual path, has been a personal journey. My experience with God has been a personal journey. That's what I want to say. I may not have been held unto the church and prompted in line with that verse, but I found. So, within us, and each individual who is here, God has an indelible mark for you. Whether you are young or you are old. That indelible mark will always guide you to the right path with God. So I took myself to church. I remember I was in class 5, and I was in a boarding school. It was a Catholic school, and I got baptized in that school. At the baptism, my brother was there. The same brother who has held my hand. You see, in the book of 2 Timothy, that very verse we have read underscores the fact that if we do not guide our children, we fail and deny them the faith. So, when it comes to the character of a child, they will orient it to the parent. Fathers do parent by presence. Fathers parent by presence, by being present. Mothers parent by providing role models. However, something is unique from a psychological perspective relating to that. Mothers will instill in the children soft skills. By soft skills, I mean they will tell you sit properly. Why are you chewing like that? People don't walk like that. If you stand like this, they tell you stand upright. Why are you standing like that? You will be standing like that, and I don't know what that means. But they will be precisely bringing you to light about what you need to do to live your daily life. That is what mothers do. And you can't do that without presence. Now, fathers, most strikingly, by their presence in the home, they are already parenting. And most of us can be able to see that when our fathers were at home, paths were very straight. They never used to talk. You don't have to talk much. As long as you are in the home, children are following the path. They already know the standards of that, whether you have set it or no, or not. Meaning that when we are not present at home as fathers, we are failing. We are failing. The men who are here, I want to, those who spend at least 12 hours at home, men, 12 hours only, no, of the 24, have. Okay? At least we have 3. Oh, give them a clap. Now, let me reduce it. 6 hours at home. 6 hours. Father Bernard, you have to do something to the men in the church. They are not at home. Now, if men then parent by presence and they are not present, what are they doing? Men, what are we doing? It means that women, our wives, have to compensate for that. Yet, when these children fail to follow, because whether you are there or not, you have a mental picture of the kind of child you want. But when you are not present, you tend to overextend that expectation to the mother, so that the mother then akuje asimame lile pengo ambalo umewacha. What happens when these children do not become what you have expected? You blame the mother. Mothers, am I speaking to you? Am I speaking to you? We blame. Now, once blame has entered into that, it leads to conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, the children who are here or who are yet to come do not need words. They need actions. And I know culture has embraced the fact that a man should always be out of the home seeking and providing for the family. But across generations, our generations were able to make it without fathers present. But the generation of now, the Gen Z generation, cannot. It can't. We have to be present. Those of you who have graduated, by the sense that maybe you are young one is in the university, you have graduated from that, you be thankful that at least you are off that hook. But if you have younger children, Gen Zs of today do not expect anything other than presence. Now, I know and I value the person Moses in the Bible. The person Moses was an imperfect man in the sight of men. First of all, as you are aware, he was a stammerer, isn't it? But he overcame by being held by the hand of God. Eventually, he married an Israelite woman. But they divorced. Did you know that Moses was a divorcee actually? Are we aware that Moses is a divorcee? Are we aware? And then he married an Israelite woman. A number of us may not be aware, but that is the story of Moses. But God teaches us through Moses that it is never what we have that defines who we are. It's not what we are. It's not the beauty that I have. It's not the height. It's not the voice. He sees different. He saw the stick that was in Moses' hand and used it to be able to educate Moses. Moses at that time did not know anything to do with about the stick. But through the stick, that very stick, that very wood, it is what we now recognize as the cross. The stick of Moses became the cross of Jesus. And we know how they journeyed. If you look at Hosea, and I'm now leading to the second point that I wanted to drive home, the parentification of children. In psychology, there's what we call parentified child. Parentification of a child. If you remember the story of Hosea, Hosea was actually told by God to marry a harlot. That harlot they got children together with Hosea, but then she ran back to the life that she used to be, and at one point was even being sold now as a slave. And God told Hosea, go and take your wife. Now, Pastor, if you were the one, could you go back to and take her from where she's being sold as a sex slave? Could you? And say, my wife, karibu back home. Is that possible? It might not be. Parentified children, that means children who have been able to be given responsibilities beyond being children. When the parents are away, the eldest child is told to take care of the children. Over time, many who are firstborns, who are given that role of being parents to the children, never do things in accordance with their time. They will be the ones who will marry last. In fact, the lastborn will marry first, and then, or be married first, and then the firstborn comes to marry later, because of parentified roles. Sometimes as parents, we are bringing up our children is that we give them roles. So, in families where we have alcoholic parents, we have parentified children. In families where we have bedridden parents, we have parentified children. Meaning, children who step up to the roles that they are not meant to step up. So they never live to be children. They live to be parents. And if you are born 8 years and before that, most of the time, you fell into that category very easily. Because then your parent would see you as a person who would take up roles in the family. A number of times, and how we are influencing our children through parentification is that we, more often than not, want them to step up into the roles that we should. For example, your child is marrying, and you tell your eldest son to go into that negotiation on your behalf. He's not a parent, but he's been given that task to go. That role influences the child's mental well-being negatively, that they then end up becoming confused. By the time now they are to take up those roles, they don't know. First and foremost, they delay taking up child roles. It's delayed across the spectrum of their time and development. Psychologically, we are primed into this, that by about 27 years, a man is meant to marry. By 27 years, our psychological clock bespeaks that you should be looking for a wife. By 24 years, you should be looking for a husband. 24 years. How many were married by 24? Ladies. 24 years. However, because of life changes, that's not possible right now. Because by 24, you are still in campus, isn't it? So you may not marry. But the psychological clock doesn't stop. It is a psychological clock that by that time is when you should be settling down into family life. Parentified children can delay that up to 40 years. Is there someone who is 40 and is not married? 40 years. Someone who is 40 and is not married? Most likely you are a parentified child, but thank God, Pastor Bernard, in your church, there is none like that. You are blessed. You are a blessed man. Each one here is married. So, what do our children expect from us as parents? What do our children expect from us as parents? Number one, they expect presence. We have spoken about presence. Presence helps children, first of all, to develop an understanding of who the parents are. Number two, it helps them to model their character and behavior from their parents. When fathers come into the home and they are seated on the sofa set, having had a tired day, children learn to value hard work because they see hard work in the father. When the mother is roughly working almost 14 hours or 16 hours because she's the first to wake up, she's the last to wake up, children come to learn about commitment to duty, presence. Number two, communication. Communication can be verbal or non-verbal. Verbal communication must be weighted. How you speak to a small child who is about 5 years is not the same way you speak with an adolescent. Now, adolescents may have a rebellious attitude out of their development, but even with their rebelliousness, they still expect the parent to speak with them. So many a times you find we chase away these children. Nowadays, we are good parents. We never chase them away out of the home, but a number of us who are seated here were chased away out of the home. You are told, move out of your home and go. Where are you going? As a parent, where are you sending your child to? When you tell them to move out of the home, where are they going to? Communication must also provide space for the child to give opinions of what they are seeing. That way, it provides space for feedback, because communication without feedback is never complete. So if I say go, and I do not expect, if this child was having some activities, to be able to come back and share whether they will go now or later. As it is always the case, sometimes children may have homeworks. Right now we are having children who are having homeworks throughout. So if they cannot come and say, Dad, I'm having homework, let me go later, then they end up creating a scenario for where they're going to build anxiety moving forward. And they will see you as a person who they are only following commands. See, out of that, therefore, in psychology, was developed a concept we call parenting styles. And parenting styles allude to the fact that how, as a parent, you are raising your child can easily say whether they are going to feel secure or insecure. Technically, there are two outcomes, either secure or insecure. So they say if it is secure, you are safe. But if unsecure, the child may have three outcomes. The first one is they may be avoidant. They avoid circumstances where they are challenged. They avoid making hard decisions. They avoid problem solving. That's number one. They avoid relationships. So you have a child at home who should marry. You are pushing him or her to get married, and then they are refusing. Because in the first context, how they were raised, they are not so sure what that is. So they avoid. Number two, they can become anxious. So an anxious child is one who feels that if they don't do, then they will fail. So what do? They can become clingy to their friends, for example. If you have a child who a number of times cannot be able to leave the friends they have, even if those friends are bad, that's a child who is anxious. It's an anxious attachment style they have. So they seek attention. They will be seeking attention from someone. And the person who tells them, gives them the attention, they go. They are easily swayed with that. The third one, they become disorganized. Now, a disorganized child has both characteristics of avoidant and anxious. Now, imagine the one who avoids doesn't take any steps. The other one is anxious. Now, there's one who has both. So it means that when she needs to encounter, she will avoid and get anxious as a result of avoidance. Are you seeing that situation? It can complicate a person's life. Yet, life expects this person to be free-flowing. Like you go through school, after school, you should get married or marry. After that, you should get children. Do you know the difficulty with that is this? That most often, these dysfunctional characters that we see, disorganized and anxious, they attract one another. Now, that is the irony of it. A person who has avoidant tendencies will get attracted to a person who has anxious tendencies. Why? Because what I lack, I see it in the other. So, for the avoidant, they are seeing this anxious, very expressive. The anxious part, they will be very expressive. If they have a problem, they will say it and say it and say it and, put it into you that there is a problem. The avoidant doesn't want to talk. Now, so they sit, avoidant people will sit back and see, this guy is so good. He speaks, he's so fluent. I must attach to him. But then, that becomes the problem for him. Because for avoidant persons and avoidant children, they will seek out the attentiveness of the over-attentiveness of the anxious person, but become so frustrated by that. That's why some marriages are not able to stay. Because avoidant people got attached to anxious persons. That's why you find relationships struggling. Where did it begin? As children, how they attached to the parents. Disorganized individuals, more often than not, may even have more severe tendencies because they are the people then who are not sure about what they need. So out of communication, which enhances the aspect of attachment between a parent and a child, there can come out of that many issues relating to how these people relate with other people outside the home. We are also primed to the fact that how you are raised as a child, how you attach, does not affect you as a child. It affects you as an adult. So, if you are securely attached, creating relationships, creating boundaries is so easy for you. You never struggle with that because you are secure. Even if I left this man, I'll go back home and my father will welcome me. If I left this man, I'll still make it in life. You are securely attached. For an insecure person, for them, life ends. Immediately that attachment ends. So they become so frustrated with having started it, even in the first instance. And this is the problem that we are seeing in many relationships nowadays. Because earlier on, if you are aware, we used to, betrothment used to happen through proxies. There was a go-in-between. A go-in-between is a person who connects you with your prospective person. Maybe they have seen them smile nicely, they are there. But nowadays, we meet in campuses. So we are attending class together. We are attending school together, and we hit it, and we already start. By the time we are going to the parents, we have our first child. Now, then you are told you can't marry this person. How? Now problems start. But you see, in terms of relationship building, initially, when we are in the honeymoon phase, what we call the honeymoon phase, everything looks like it can work out. It can fix itself. So like you are able to see this man used to come home very early, but now he started coming late. It's okay. It will pass. But unilaterally, the foundation of how you've been raised as a child will always, until you find time to deal with it. Like in my case, counseling came in to assist me. Because I remember, I used always to feel like I want to please my parents and to belong. And therefore, there's a time that they even requested that I do away with my now wife. That time we were dating. And I was almost doing it. Because I wanted to belong. And so I started counseling, and my counselor asked me, so you want to do this for your parents, then what are you going to do for yourself? I said, I'll stay. Now I will not marry. And he said, okay. Now, whose pain is that? And I said, I don't know. And he told me, it is yours. Because it will be your pain. And then he asked me this question. I've heard you wanting independence as we go through the sessions. Where is your parents right now? Where is your father? My father retired, gone home. Where is your brother? Your brother is at home. Where is your mom? They are at home. Where are you? In Nairobi. Where is your girlfriend? Is in Nairobi. So what independence do you need? And I said, actually, I don't. I am already independent. But I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that because I was still embroiled. I was still a child wanting to connect. I don't know if you are seeing that. I was still a child. And this is what happens, that in every adult, there is a child. In every adult who is seated here, there is a child. Now, you need to find what the needs of that child is, because they influence you as an adult. That little child within you, they influence you as an adult. I'll share about an experience I had. Usually in therapy, we experience a number of issues. So there is this lady who had come. They had been married for about 13 years. And so she came in she had gone through into counseling for quite a time. And so she indicated that she was coming for the counseling for the last time, and if it doesn't work, she will stop. What was the issue? She was addicted to cakes. So she would go into a shop, a specific shop, and a specific cake, and order 1 kg, eat and finish. Then carry a kg to go and eat it at home at about midnight. It became an addiction. Because sometimes we imagine the addiction is to alcohol and all that. Then, so through the parents came together, the husband came together, they supported him, and then he said, now I've stopped. So for about 2 months, she had stopped. But then, one day, she got, because she had self-esteem issues, she got so low that she felt, I must take a cake. So she went into that shop, bought a cake, 1 kg, ate and finished, and carried 1 kg home to eat in the middle of the night. And actually, she ate it. But now the problem she did, she threw that pepper into the dustbin in the kitchen. She had a child who was 4 years old. That child woke up and came to the kitchen the first thing in the morning to greet the house manager, the maid. And she saw that and carried it. And, Mommy, you ate cake. Where is my cake? Mommy, you ate cake. And then she said, shh, don't say it. Don't say it. Mommy ate cake. So the dad has heard, because he was already attuned to cakes. So he has heard, he came and asked, what is it? Mommy ate cake. And so they had to speak. And so she had come now because she was caught into the session. And so we sat down, and when we looked at that situation, we went for about 5 sessions. We were not getting, because then the association with cake, she couldn't make out why. But it occurred that when she was 7 years old, the parents had died, and she had been taken by an uncle. And the uncle defiled her until the age when she was 13. It was never discovered until the age she was 13. And so, when that came up, she slumped to the seat and said, come on, why did you ask me that question? And I said, I don't know. But I can see it as starred you. What's the problem? She said, I feel so angry. And then I said, what about? And she said, about my uncle. And started asking, why did he do this? Why? Why did he do this? And at that point, we realized that question she was asking, she was not asking as an adult woman. She was asking as the child who had been defiled. And out of that, she got insight into that situation. Now we needed to bring in the family and for her to share out because she had never shared. And out of that, that's how she got healing. Now, if we bring that into the biblical sense, and the conversation that Jesus had with the adulterous woman, it was a process and a journey that she took that adulterous woman through. And that woman had to even, and that is also the story we have at the well. You remember? Actually, Jesus narrated exactly to her about the life she had lived. Sometimes, the ghosts that we are fighting today have to be fought in the past. We have to heal in order to overcome. Just like the adulterous woman, who then eventually became a core witness of Christ. And that is emerging out of parenting. So, when it comes to marital therapy or marriage and marriage counseling, sometimes I know we contradict that a bit because we say, as spouses who are intending to get married, your past is your past. So do you bring it forward or you leave it behind? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? If, for example, as a child, as a young boy, I was messy. I was running, and I have 3 children. And they have gone. I don't know where they are. Do I come and tell you, by the way, I had 3 children. I was a real cock. Do I come and share that with you? Is that necessary, important, in the current relationship? Is it necessary? Most men will say no. Most men will say no, but most ladies will say it is necessary. Now, however, the real meaning is never whether it is necessary or not. It is about the nature of your relationship. What is it founded upon? The nature of the relationship. What is it founded upon? Now, essentially, a relationship that is founded on one, open communication, that will not be an issue. That will not be an issue. You bring yours, I bring mine. Now, the problem comes when I say go fast. Then she goes, she narrates, I did this. Then I think, it touches me that maybe I'm with the wrong person. Then I say, hapana, sasa wacha tuachie hapo. Mimi sitasema yangu. Taking advantage. That's people fear. But when it is open communication and grounded on that, sharing about past helps. You see, I struggled with all these things, not being able to go to my father never went to my udoni. And my wife kept on struggling because I didn't tell her. As a man, I was raised that you must die hard. So I said I will fight it alone. I only shared it during the day of our honeymoon. Because eventually, that wedding I was looking for, I got it. And so on the day of the wedding, now I told her what I had gone through to get her. And I told her, I'm telling you this, knowing 2 things. that I can emerge strong over vulnerable. Which one do you want me to emerge with? She told me, okay, you will emerge strong. First of all, I had to seek that consent and assurance. And so when I told her, the thing she told me was, if she knew back then that I was struggling that much, she would not have married me. So, do you think still it is necessary to say? Do you think it is necessary? So, later on, of course, then she would reach and say, especially when we have a conflict, she would say, otherwise, I was not meant to marry you. Because of already, your parents could not have. And then I told her, but now we are married. So, fast forward, now in parenting. So recently, we have our firstborn is in the university. And so, as a girl who has finished high school and as a Gen Z, she's trying to create her own environment. But the mother is not very happy with it. So, one of the conflicts we have now is about this daughter. She says, I am too easy on her. And I'm saying, how? No, you don't tell her to come here early. We communicate, but she always comes in the afternoon. Then I'm asking her, what is happening? Daddy, we met with friends, we spoke, and then I just came. But then that is point of conflict with you and the mother. And the mother says, wacha kumutumia pesa, wacha kae huko. Namwambia, this is a girl. If we do that, she will still get the money from another person. And so we have had that conversation until recently she said now she's seeing. Because of the fact that children will want still to be children. Sometimes we expect them to make adult decisions, but they will still make them as children. And we must allow them to make some mistakes. Like now, one day she went, and I think they went out with friends. So the money I'd given her for pocket money weekly, she spent it on ice cream. And then I asked her, how come? We went with our friends and, all of them were buying ice cream, and then you saw I felt I ate. I was to eat one, but then I realized we went on, so I ate 3. Then you ate 3, and then what pocket money do you? I don't have. I say, now stay for a week, and then come over the weekend, because she comes home over the weekend. And my wife is asking, why does she have to come home over the weekend? I said, let us be thankful that at least she's listening to us to come home over the weekend. Because parents who are here, I like to speak to you, to the heart, that your child, of the 18 years, you only have 9 years to be with that child, of the 18 years of a child. And that takes us back to the present. Because look here, right from the time she's a baby, she started going to school for about 6 hours. So it means out of 24, you subtract around, with the school and traveling, you subtract around 7 hours. How many hours are you left with? Out of 24, how many hours are you left with? 14. Now, a good child, and depending on the age, children who are young, maybe up to around 6 years, they should be sleeping for about 16 hours. Now, when they come from school, they are tired. So first of all, they eat. Sometimes we tell them sleep a bit, and then they wake up to do homework. They are doing homework for about an hour, and then they go to sleep. How many hours do you have with that child? About 3 or 4 hours. Are we together? Now, we think as though that is worse, but now when they go to the university, it even becomes worse, because they can either come home or not. So the time we have to influence our children, we must do it. Because if we don't do it, then we have a problem. I want to read to you a message I received from a mother just last evening. And I think it was, for me, it touched me. Actually, what I'd done, I had shared the flyer that I was coming here. And so this is a mother who wrote, I had helped a son a while back, and she said, I love your passion in psychology and more parenting and raising mentally stable kids. The world needs more people like Dennis Ogaro. My son is doing really great. He stopped taking drugs, stopped drinking, smoking, and mirror. You have played a big role in changing his perception about life. He is more focused on himself and his young family. I love who he has become. He's just woke up one day and shaved his dreads on his own volition. He goes to church every Sunday. Hallelujah. Now, I didn't expect that. When it came, I had mixed feelings. Because this is a person we struggled for about 12 sessions. And then he said we'll go think about it. After that, I gave the space. He's never come back, but he went and changed. Now, you see, taking into account the attitude of my wife is that our daughter is now an adult, she should plan herself. If we left her, she will disappear. And we may never have a daughter. So when it comes to parenting, both of you have to realize that one of you has to be firm, the other one has to be a person that the children can come back to. Because if both of you are tough, then children will disappear. So think about you. In your family, who is softer? Who is hard? Who is harder? Is it the mother or the husband? Who is hard? Between the two of you, who is more hard? Nani ndio huwa mgumu kucrack? Discuss. It is an intention. Parents must be intentional. Parents have to be intentional towards planning, raising their children. And being intentional does not mean that you reduce your values. But in order for you to become intentional, it has got to go back to the basics. Understanding yourself. Now, in psychology, we speak about something called personality. In spirituality, we speak about being created in the uniqueness and image of God. That is in Genesis. Now, that situation and those two analogies speak of one thing. You must learn your anchoring. You must learn about yourself. So as a father, who is seated here, who are you? Who are you? What is your character? What can your children borrow from you that is positive? In understanding yourself means that you have to confront some of the things that sometimes make you avoid looking yourself in the mirror. Hard truths. For example, I am short. Is there anything I can do about that? You see, when Father Bernard was speaking here, you could see his torso, complete torso. But when I'm standing here, you are only seeing the head. That is okay. Okay? So, I can't do anything about it. In other words, and then, laced with the uniqueness that we have. And that's why God commanded that a man must leave his home, his parents, and a woman must leave their parents, and out of that create a bond. When you are unique as an individual and the wife is unique as an individual, in order to coexist, you must create a unique oneness. That oneness is what is intentional. In other words, even when it comes to marriage, It is the intentional situation of saying, I'm entering into this for better, for worse. And if we can intention that way, it means we can also become intentional in parenting. So that when we speak of presence, we know we are busy. You need to have time. You need to create time. I was speaking to Pastor Mwangi this morning and telling him that I work in the county government of Makueni as a counseling psychologist. Currently, I'm the one who is heading that unit in Makueni. And it's not an easy task. But I've created it that every weekend I have to be in Nairobi to see my family. Because there is no way I can be healing other families and leave mine. It is intentional. You must be intentional. Sometimes I work with colleagues who ask me, you are spending a lot of money going. And I ask them, look at a common weekend. I have stayed here in Makueni. One, I'll have to eat. And as I eat, there's a lady here who will want to accompany me. Certainly, it gets complicated when there's a lady, because now, if I'm going Madondo Chapati, now I will not eat Madondo Chapati. I will have to change the menu. So, it will mean that overall, I'll use about 2,000. Now, that money is enough for me to come to Nairobi and back. Which one is cheaper? Which one is cheaper? Sometimes what we imagine we are saving, we are losing. What we imagine we are saving, we are losing. All these things will go, but family stays. Okay? Then, our children expect us to discipline, to provide guidance in the family, in the home. Now, I want to be able to redefine this in the two aspects. In fact, there's a difference between discipline and punishment. Is there? Is there a difference between discipline and punishment? There is. Because in punishment, we are seeking to put in suffering in order to change behavior. Pain, we use pain to change behavior. Whereas in discipline, we are intending to change perspective. So, when you instill pain, you are punishing. When you change perspective, you are disciplining. The truth of the matter is that you can never discipline a child without conversations. And that is why, in psychology, we have specific principles when it comes to punishment, for example. For instance, timing. Discipline or reward must come immediately after what has happened. Not later. Like, you start remembering last year, in December, you did the December ilipita. We are here another December. Timing. Do it immediately. When it occurs. When it comes to discipline, do not wait. Sit and have a conversation with this person immediately. Number two, it must be weighted. Weight it. Is it, like, for example, a child cannot pour water and then you lift that child up and umwachilie aanguke. That punishment is not commensurate. In fact, you will notice that the greater the event, the effect of the event, the more soft you'll act. For example, if we have placed that TV there, and that TV, you find a child who is about 6 years has gone up and screwed it, and in the process of carrying, because it's heavy, they fall down together. At that point, you enter the house. What are you running to salvage? Is it the child or the TV? Is it the child or the TV? You will be rushing to the child. Now, will you spank that child? Kwa nini ulipanda juu? First of all, you will be checking, is your head okay? Are you okay? Are you hurting? Because the situation at that time is life-threatening. So out of that situation, you realize that you have to wait it. So even the tone of voice, the words you use will be influenced by you weighing out the situation. You have to weigh. We have to weigh as parents. Thirdly, is that we use a sandwich method to give feedback to the child. Sandwich means that you don't just look at the negatives, you prime it with the positive. I realized last term you did well in mathematics. In fact, extremely well, that I was already starting to clap for you. And then, but this time, now you have gone down. You have gone down. First of all, I acknowledge the effort you put last time. But then, what happened? Now you come to the negative. And once you have done the negative, because a sandwich has 3 layers, lace it with what you would expect. Use a sandwich method to provide feedback to your child. Let's not be negative. Let's not only be negative. And you see, if you are a husband who is seated here, if you use this sandwich on our wives, they become happy. They will always be telling us the truth. They will not be lying. Ladies, are we together? We will be very friendly people. Senior, if they use sandwich. Now, challenge is that ladies have greater challenge using sandwich than men. And especially when it comes to remembrance, they are even worse. They remember the day, last year in December, the day you had a conflict, how you were seated and how you were talking, and the suit you are wearing. Anyway, we thank God for you, our ladies. Please give our ladies a clap. Because they are our memories, for better, for worse. So when it comes to discipline and punishment, ladies and gentlemen, we must be able to weight it. Weigh it and see. Yeah? That by the time you are acting. It also helps you to influence your emotions into that action that you are going to take. Are we going to do that? Are we going to do that? The fourth thing that children desire from us is that we be role models. We be role models. Now, how many of us are seated here and looked at our parents' careers and became those careers? Be it your mom or your dad. You saw what he was doing and you became that career. Anyone? So you all went to your own paths. There's no one who is following after the father or after the mother. Then it means our parents were not role models. Because non-equivocally, you will find that of the ideal self is the best image of myself should be the parent. Father Bernard, your eldest son, your eldest child is how old? Around 14. Have you heard him speaking that he wants to be a pastor? Somehow. He's speaking with the teens. He says it's a hard job. He wants to be a pilot. Clap for his child. Because you see, but there can be a unique attribute between wanting to be a pilot and who you are. Generally, children must never be those careers that we have, but through us they dream to become better. And that's how you model. So, by that virtue, there are people who are not learned, but their children became great. You see, for example, if we speak about Jenga Karume, you know he made his life from charcoal. He used to sell charcoal. But his children are very learned. What did he model? He modeled hard work and initiative, taking initiative. That he was able to take initiative, be able to, from charcoal selling, to become an estate owner. That is more modeling. Now, modeling can be both positive or negative. And how we model our children negatively is how we manage our anger. How we manage our anger. Number two, our habits. Our habits. For example, those of us who drink from time to time. And I will be reminded, my 1 hour ends what time? My 1 hour ends at what time? It ends now. That's a police case. Pastor Mwangi. Yeah, so, but I will wind up on that. So that then, from that situation, how we model negatively is by our habits. Habits, we speak about things that we do, and they become part of us. For example, those of us who drink. I know not, people here don't drink. They are the ones outside there. Those who drink, technically, there is no way you can be drinking and telling your son not to drink. It doesn't go together. You are holding your smoke and telling your son, you know smoking is bad. That is negative modeling. Because the fact is that there's what we call reverse psychology. The things you always tend to propagate as not to be done are the things that many of our children want to try. Thank you. Many of our children will want to try. So, when we have poor habits, our children will model after poor habits. But technically, if we are ambitious, if we are courageous, if we are people who have values of kindness, our children will learn to be kind. Now, so how do we marry spiritual values, as I conclude, how do we marry spiritual values with psychological values? One is that we are uniquely made. As counselors, we believe each individual is unique. Number two, we are both in spirituality and in psychology, we are based on values. Positive values. Value of confidentiality. Values of kindness. Values of being able to be there for the other person. Those are twofold ways of looking at it, both spiritually and psychologically. Thirdly, is the fact that we have one goal: to make the individual become better. Within the spiritual realm, provided and grounded in the biblical teachings, we are prompting our children to be good persons to themselves and to others. In psychology, that same principle applies. So when we intertwine those two, we end up having better people. Family people who are here. The concept of oneness becomes where one person comes with their habits, the other person comes with their habits, but they have to create a common habit that works for them, that they have to be intentional. Lastly, is an appreciation for the chance to come and talk to you. I am sure that I have impacted with you in one area or the other. There are many things that we have spoken about. I want you to pick one that you think you would want to change. Just one. And out of it, embrace it with today's message. That when you become better as a parent, your child become better. And we all become a unified family. And once each family works and functions, the church will also become functional. And for that, that is our goal. That is the goal that we have, to be able to nurture each other as we move forward so that we meet our Savior when our time comes. May the good Lord bless you and grant you your heart's desires, especially around parenting, around relationships with your spouses, and with your children. Thank you very much.